I'm your host, Dave Russell. I'm joined with my co-hosts, Charlie Sarche and Tony Delamonte. Today, we're joined with special guest, Natalie Kerwin, with FanDuel Sports, an on-air reporter with the Pistons, Tigers, and Red Wings, I believe.
Yeah.
And Natalie, my understanding is you're a Michigan State graduate and worked for was it Impact 89 when you were on campus?
It was, yeah. So this is familiar for me. I'm not too afraid from being in front of a microphone, obviously, doing it every day for a living, but in this kind of setting too. I love it. We're just chatting. We're talking about sports.
We love it, yeah. And also, I believe you were with WLX after that. Is that right?
I was, yeah. So Lansing will always be home for me. I mean, now I'm in Detroit. I grew up in Metro Detroit, but I love coming back here. Even the drive up, I still get excited. And even parking downtown here, going by campus on the way to the podcast studio here today. It's fun. It's like you see Spartan Stadium from the highway. It's like, oh, my old dorm's right over there. You know, just all the memories flood back. So I love the city of Lansing and, of course, working up here after college, too. It's just... You'll never forget the times being up here. I love it. And I was telling Charlie, too, my brother is a student now at Michigan State. So I have even more excuses to come up and tailgate and crash at his place if I need to.
Right. Well, you know, in looking at your bio, you see that you work for FanDuel. You're on air with the Pistons. I'm like, wow, this is a really cool job. But I really want to hear from you because I get that. I'm sure Charlie and Tony probably do, too. Like, oh, it must be really cool being a lawyer. You know, if someone watches a episode of Suits or they watch A Few Good Men, and I'm like, yeah, it's actually not that cool.
You guys don't give yourself enough credit though, because I watch Suits and I think it's badass to be honest. But I'm sure being in the day to day of it, like there's it's got its nuances, right? Like any job.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm living the dream, but there's also some really tough parts about it too that the average fan or people wouldn't realize. That's like, okay, there's actually a lot more work that goes into it. You're not just going on TV and looking pretty.
Well, and I think that's a big part of it, as being a lawyer too. The prep that goes into say if I'm in court or something like that. That's 2 days of sitting at the desk, reading through briefs, doing things like that. I'm assuming you're doing that type of research, for your job.
Yep, there's tons of prep. I mean, that's one of the biggest things to be successful at this job is just knowing your stuff. And being a woman in this field especially, that's always in the back of my mind is I have people that are constantly judging me. It's gotten a lot better. The more and more women that have gotten into this field, I think it's just become more of the norm that there's space for both females and males to be reporters, play-by-play, color analysts, whatever you name it, in the sports journalism world. But preparation, they always say, is key in any job that you do, but especially in this one. It's like you got to know your stuff, know the stats, know the players, the matchup that you're covering, whatever it is, you just always have to be on top of your game. So I feel like I'm constantly scrolling through my phone, social media, making little notes in my phone on the Notes app. That's the app I use the most because I'm always I'll think of something or a future idea and I'm like, okay, I got to quickly jot that down so I don't forget it. So I'm always just thinking of the next one step ahead, always trying to work one step ahead.
So is it you that comes up with the questions to ask in the interviews that you do, or do you get them from the network as well?
No, it's all me. I mean, I might have a producer in my ear. So we wear these earpieces called IFBs, and on my microphone, I have a way there's a button on there where I can talk into the microphone and my producer will hear me. And so he may, so it's vice versa. He has a button in front of him in our TV truck that he can press to talk directly to me. And so we can give each other ideas of like, hey, I'm going to go grab this player after the game. He had the most amount of points tonight. That's usually how we do it. Whoever played the best, And he'll say like, hey, what are you thinking as far as your line-up questions? And I'll give him a few bullet points. He might add something on or say, hey, maybe let's not go that direction. So he can give me feedback, but for the most part, it's me like coming up with the full question. And sometimes it's just on the fly, right? Like based on what the player tells me, I may think of a good follow-up to ask or make fun of him on something based on how he answered, however it goes. But it's usually just me as the one that's just throwing out whatever comes to mind.
How do you deal with the atmosphere around you? Like end of the games, maybe something big just happened at the end of the game. How do you deal with fans, other players being excited? How do you deal with all that going on around you while you're trying to ask these important questions?
It's a lot. It really is. I don't know if I'll ever get used to looking up. Like for me in basketball, because I do that the most, I'll look around the arena and I'm like, there's 19 to 20,000 people here all looking at you. And I can't and they're screaming and yelling, and obviously after a win, it's really exciting, and the energy is huge. And I just think of the Pistons playoff run that they just went on, and it was electric. I have never been in an atmosphere like that in my life. So I have to remind myself, like, hey, just pretend like the guy I'm about to interview is my friend. Try and block out the noise around you. It's so hard to do that, but it's a little bit easier when I have those earpieces in, actually. They kind of block out everything when I have that cranked up, and I can hear my producer instead of the crowd screaming at me, Natalie, oh my God. You're with Cade Cunningham right now. Like just trying to get all of that out of your head. That's a skill in itself, and I'm still working on it.
That's cool.
So when you come up with the questions, is it like how much of the flow of the game, especially if you have a mid-game interview or post-game interview, do you go based, obviously if Cade hits a game winner, that's what you're going to ask about. But what goes into that thought process when you're sitting there on the sideline, like, okay, flow of the game, maybe we're struggling defensively. Like, what's your process like for that?
To come up with those questions. It's hard. I always have, so in front of me, I have my iPad and I have a stats monitor so I can see maybe how much is the bench contributing, how many turnovers have we had. Like, I'm always just trying to see if there's anything that sticks out to me that maybe the average fan watching on TV wouldn't think about because they don't have a stat monitor in front of them. I mean, if you're a super fan, maybe you got your ESPN app out and you're tracking the box score. Like, if you're that kind of person, more power to you. But I'm trying to find little things to ask even the player about. They might not even, some of them you throw them off. Like, do you realize how close you were to a triple-double tonight? That happened to me at some point this year. I think it was Dennis Schroeder. I was like, you were like 2 rebounds away from a triple-double. And he was like, I was? That's so sick. And you get that live reaction on TV, and it's like, see, if I didn't ask him about that, you wouldn't have gotten that pure raw reaction. So for me, I'm looking at stats. I'm trying to just figure out what the biggest storylines are of the game, because it's so easy to get caught up in trying to ask the perfect question, and you're not always going to do that. I always put too much pressure on myself for that. I'm trying to work on it, but I have started to learn that taking out a piece of paper and just writing some key bullet points down. Maybe it's a huge play that has to be talked about, or a guy that's, he's had a great last couple of games. And this could be any sport, really, whether it's basketball or baseball, whatever it is that I'm covering. But just certain trends, a big key play that happened, whatever it is. And I just try and find different ways to ask about it, because it's so easy to say, how did that feel? That's the most cliche question in the book. And so you try to find a lot of, sports are very emotional, and you do want to know what the athlete is feeling, but it's figuring out ways to ask that one thing in so many different ways. So I try, and when I do my questions, it's like get at the heartstrings a little bit, get the emotional side of it, and then also get what we just saw on the court or on the field too. So there's it's always a work. Every reporter is so different in how they come up with their questions, but that's, for me, that's how I try and come up with a flow in how I want to do it. But there's no correct formula.
As a Michigan native too, I mean, you have to balance being excited about the game you're watching and doing your job. And
that's for sure.
At the same time.
Yes. That is what's hard, right? Like, being from here, I am a fan of all these teams. And I grew up watching the Lions, the Pistons, the Red Wings, the Tigers, Michigan State, being an alum of this amazing university here. It's like, luckily, I don't have to cover MSU right now, so I can still be a total super fan if I want. And same with the Lions. I don't cover them either, so I can go all out. My parents are season ticket holders, so those games I go crazy. But you guys are right. Like, for the teams that I do cover, I do have to reel it in a little bit. But I think it's okay, too, to show some excitement. It's not like I'm like glomming all over these players when I'm interviewing them, like, oh my God, that was so cool. But I ask things in a professional way that still comes across as, okay, like she's doing her job. That's what she's here to do as media. But I allow myself to smile and show a lot of personality. That's part of my I'm not going to say it's my shtick because it's not fake. It's authentic. It's who I am. That's how I've always been as a reporter and media member. But I think being able to cover your hometown teams, that comes out even more for me. But I think people find that endearing. So I try to be authentically myself, and it's fun being able to cover the teams that you grew up watching since you were little. So
Absolutely.
I've figured out how to draw that line a little bit throughout the years. Yeah.
And I think from our standpoint, when we have an athlete that we represent and they're getting interviewed, a lot of times it's a little tense, like, oh, what are they going to say? And I know you have good interviews and bad interviews.
Right.
What are the best interviews that you get? What traits do athletes have that do well in interviews?
Yeah, I think when they look you in the eye and you can tell they're speaking from the heart. I think some of them, there's certain athletes that love the media and certain ones that don't, and you can just tell right away. I think when they really can get emotional about whatever it is we're talking about, whether it was something good they did or bad they did. And this could be an interview that I'm doing on the court after a win, or maybe it's in the locker room after, because we still have to get the guys even after a loss.
Right.
And that's hard to do. You don't want to talk about how bad you played or you missed the game-winning shot. But the guys that are willing to still talk to you and be vulnerable, I think those are the best interviews that we get, because you're getting the pure, raw feelings coming out of them. And it's like, yeah, I sucked tonight. That's just how it is, and I'm going to be better from it. And it's the guys that are just willing to admit their wrongdoings, or just, I don't know, it's so hard to just admit that, I think, to people when you are at the lowest of lows, because these athletes, they're always getting glorified by the fans. We view them as these superhumans in a way. And so I think that's why a lot of them, they are able to, some of them, it's hard to take that ego away, but for the ones that can, I find those to be the best interviews, because they just keep it real with me. And I like to keep it real right back. And again, be authentic and then be authentic. And I think fans can see, like, okay, that was a good interview. I got something out of that I hadn't heard before. And I love to pull different pieces out of these guys that you might not hear typically, like what I was saying, like the how do you feel question. It's like asking something different almost, that's just, instead of saying how do you feel, it's like, what in this moment right now, what's coming to your mind? Where does this sit in your heart? Of all the moments you've had in your career, where would you rank this one? It's just finding different ways to have different responses and just the authenticity about it. So those are the best ones, I think.
I feel like as a sports fan, we hear the canned media answer so often.
We do.
That when someone gives an authentic, speaking from the heart, or is a little bit vulnerable, it's refreshing to see. And it's like, wow, that, I feel like I like that guy or that athlete anymore, or a little bit more. So I would agree with that.
And the coach too, like Coach Izzo's a good example of that. It's definitely from the heart when you're hearing from Coach Izzo.
Every time.
Yes.
He'll tell you like it is. They could blow a team out by 20. He still comes in the conference room after to talk to the media and be like, man, that was such a bad game. And it's like, dude, you just beat your rival. You just beat Michigan. He's like, I don't care. We turned the ball over too many dang times. Yep. And it's like, let's just celebrate for a second, Tom. He'll never let his team do that. He won't settle for complacency. And that's why we love him, right? That's why he's, for me, he's one of just the GOATs. I mean, in sports, as a person, I love that man. And talk about keeping it real every time. He's like a walking soundbite. He'll give you something that you haven't heard before. Yeah. And that's what you love about him. That's why it's such a blast being around that guy if you get to know him. So he's a perfect example.
So when you were at Michigan State, were you covering college, like Michigan State athletics?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. I mean, I came in as a freshman, and I just wanted to do everything I could. And it's hard when you're a freshman to do all the things that you want to do. Like, they're not just going to go and let you cover the football team or the basketball team. A lot of times they make you start with the smaller sports, and that's okay, because they want you to get your reps in early on. And, if you're going to mess up, I guess it's better to do it with maybe in front of an audience that doesn't have as many people as basketball or football would. Nothing against smaller sports, but I feel like that's how most, when I talk to people in the business, that's how they started. So I was covering field hockey. I was covering women's soccer. let's see, I guess baseball was considered a smaller sport on campus. The hockey program's grown so big now, but back when I was there, it was in a struggling phase. So that was one of the teams we would cover too. And then eventually I was able to cover Michigan State basketball and football a little bit, but mostly basketball once I was a junior. And I started working for the radio station on campus, and I started with women's hoops, and it was me and two other guys. I was the only girl that worked for the radio station at the time amongst just a bunch of dudes, which was cool in itself.
Yeah.
I took a lot of pride in that. And they all treated me like I was their sister, which was cool. And so I just said, hey, by the time I'm a senior, I really want to be able to cover men's basketball or men's football, whatever one you want to put me in. So yeah, they started me off on women's hoops. And then I was able to, for them, because it was a radio station, the two guys that I was working with on both the women's and men's beat eventually, both guys were doing play-by-play in color. I was more of the reporter per se, but also wrote articles for the website that we had for Impact. And then we all did a weekly podcast called The Impact Zone, which was really cool. So I got the chance to just get my feet wet with MSU basketball, which is obviously legendary in itself. And then eventually got to do men's hoops my senior year, got to know Tom really well. And the 2 years that I worked up here after graduation too, got to know him even more as a professional media member. And then I still see him now to this day, and it's amazing. But yeah, got to be very hands-on with everything Michigan State athletics while I was there, which is what's so great about the journalism program there.
Nice. That's cool. Well, Tony played football at Michigan. Tony, did you ever?
You did? Oh,
were you ever in any interviews?
I'm next to a Michigan grad right now.
You know, we were going to keep that on the down low, Charlie, until at least the interview was over.
No, that's awesome. Michigan football?
Yeah, I was a walk-on. I had 2 years of Hoke and then 2 years of Harbaugh.
Wow.
So I had a couple rough years, and then seeing Coach Harbaugh for the first couple of years was pretty cool.
Did you ever do any interviews?
I'm trying to think if I did any. I was a walk-on.
I know. Let's see how.
Maybe a couple in high school, and then maybe one in like media day my senior year.
Sure.
And I think I was pretty nervous. I'll give props to that. I think it was Dana Jacobson came over, and she was awesome. And I don't know why I got grabbed, but yeah, I feel like she had a presence that was like very welcoming. Really wanted to hear what people say. And so, thinking back to that interview, I feel like that's something that you do really well too. So I feel like on the athlete side, they appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It is hard though being on the other side of the camera, I must say. Whenever I'm getting interviewed for something, I find myself getting nervous, and I'm like, wait, I'm so used to doing the other part of this. Why am I nervous right now? It's hard when you have a camera in front of you. The red light goes on, and it's just, I don't know, you get in your head so easily. So I could understand too from your perspective, especially someone of Dana's level at, she works for CBS. Yeah. It's a national station, obviously, and the name, so it's just that gets in your head a little bit too, especially when you're not used to it. But I feel like we got to go find these tapes. Maybe they're on YouTube.
That's a great idea.
I don't know.
We should really do that.
Yeah, I don't know if they're out there.
That's our
anyway.
He's like, no, you guys, we'll forget about this. No, I'm making a mental note right now, pulling out my notes app like I always do. We're finding this after.
Do you have a favorite interview that you've done? I'm also going to grill you on the playoff series because I went to game 3.
Did
you? Oh my God, that atmosphere was unbelievable. But we'll get there.
Well, we will get there because that's my favorite atmosphere I've ever been in.
Okay.
One of them, but that's got to be top 3 for sure. Favorite interview. I've been lucky enough that a lot of the athletes in Detroit in my time here, so I've only been there 3 years, but every team that I've been able to cover, and for the most part, it's been Tigers and Pistons more in depth. Red Wings I fill in on here and there, so I don't know the guys as well. But I can speak to basketball and baseball, and all of those guys, most of them are good interviews because they're good people. Both teams are really young. There's not a lot of egos. So every time I need an interview from somebody, everyone is very just willing to do it. It speaks well, all of that. But if I had to pick some favorites, my favorite athlete of all time is Barry Sanders. Since I was little, again, Lions super fan. I come from a family that's just a bunch of sports nuts. My Uncle Larry, who you guys know, he's the biggest sports super fan too. So whenever we're at family get-togethers, we're always catching up on all things Michigan State, Lions, Tigers, Pistons, whatever. He's always shooting me a text every time he sees me, which is awesome. But back to what you asked me, just as far as a favorite interview goes, we got a new player on. I was starting to talk about Barry. See, here I am getting sidetracked because I have a couple. I know I'm thinking all over the place here, but I have a couple ones that come to mind. So I'll start with Barry Sanders. I was so nervous for that. I pretty much blacked out. I didn't know what to do with myself because I'm like, I have this guy's jersey hanging up in my closet. He's been my favorite athlete since I started loving sports and football at like age 4 or 5. I remember my dad always telling me, this is the guy that you're going to, pulling up YouTube highlights. He's like, this is one of the best of all time. Yeah. You're going to learn to love this guy if you're going to be a Lions fan. And I had an opportunity a couple years ago to cover the Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit. And there's always a celebrity scramble every year, and that year it happened to be Tom Izzo, Calvin Johnson, and Barry Sanders participating. And not only were there big name golfers at this scramble, but these 3 legends in front of me, and I love all 3 of them. So Tom I had already known, but Calvin was also another name. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I get to go up to him too. So I interviewed him that same day. But then Barry, I didn't really know how to go about it, but I just went up to him and I'm like, hey, my name's Natalie. I work at the time it was Bally Sports Detroit. And I'm just here covering the scramble today, but I just wanted to tell you, you hear this a lot, I'm sure, but you are just, obviously what you did on the football field's incredible. And I never got to watch you myself, just through YouTube videos and whatnot, but who you are as a person and what you do out in the community and for the Lions is just amazing, and you will forever be my favorite athlete. And I just wanted to take the time to tell you that because I don't know if I'll ever see you again. Mm-hmm. And he got the biggest smile on his face and he was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. He's pretty soft spoken, but I said, can I grab you for just a couple of questions and talk about just fun stuff, your golf game, maybe a little Lions? And he said, sure, why not? So I think it was nice that I warmed him up a little, just giving him a little bit of loving. Absolutely. And he was like, sure, I'll do it. And he was great. He loves to golf. He's not very good at it, but he admitted that. I forget who he was paired with, but it was hilarious. I mean, he couldn't even get off the tee. Then he finally did and went straight into the water. It was a mess. But he's like, I'm just here to have fun. Nice. And then we talked about Lions football, of course, and he's gotten more and more involved over the years, just giving back. And I know the Fords invite him out to a lot of events all the time. Calvin Johnson, same thing when I got to talk to him. The statue, out in front. So that one's super memorable for me, and I guess I'll leave it there. I don't know. I'm going to go on a tangent probably with other stuff.
No, that's great.
But there's a lot of characters on the teams I cover now. Malik Beasley with the Pistons is constantly just silly, jumping in other guys' interviews. That always makes me laugh. I'm like, dude, get out of here. It's not your moment. It's someone else's. But yeah, so those are a few that come to mind.
Nice.
Did you find it difficult kind of breaking into this male-dominated field?
Yeah, and you still feel that way, I think, as a woman. I'll just speak for myself on this, but a lot of my friends that are also females that either I graduated with or that I've met throughout the years, I think we all go through the same thing of feeling imposter syndrome. I think that's a real thing. It's just feeling like you're not good enough to be in the job you're in. And I think a lot of it is just hearing and seeing, too, on social media, just how judgmental people still are about seeing a woman on their TV screen or on the radio or whatever it is. Everyone has an opinion, and not everyone should share their opinion, but a lot of them do and don't care. And I'll still get DMs all the time on Twitter and Instagram, and just a lot of them are nice, but you still get some mean ones from people like, oh, that Natalie girl, she's not that good at what she does. She shouldn't have this job. Oh, I didn't like that outfit you were wearing. You're always just being judged for no reason. And it's like, well, Jim on his couch, when I look at his profile picture, who are you to say that I'm not good enough to do my job? Look at yourself. That's what I want to say, but I hold myself back. I don't clap back at any of these people, even though in my gut, I just want to absolutely unleash on some of these guys. And the way that I see some of them talk to my friends that are in the business too, it's like, what are we doing? So I do feel like there is just a lot of pressure to be perfect. You have to look the right way. You have to say the right things. I go back to the preparation aspect of it. You have to just know, I feel like, so much more than even the average dude does coming into a game. Because it just, people still feel like you don't know everything because they're like, oh, she covers football, she covers basketball. Well, she didn't even play either of those sports. How could she know what she's talking about? But I can still know just as much as the guy next to me if I do enough preparation. It does take a little bit of extra work, that's for sure, because I actually did never play basketball and obviously never played baseball. So when I do cover those sports, it does take me a little bit longer maybe than the average guy that maybe used to play those sports back in the day or just has a different perspective. I have to do a lot of research. I have different books that I read. I'm always reading different newspaper articles. I'm trying to keep myself up to date on everything. And I self-willingly admit, too, that I don't know everything there is to know. That's why I ask a lot of questions, and I'm not afraid to do that. When people say, like, don't ask stupid questions, I don't think there's such thing as a stupid question. I mean, I'm just always trying to be authentic and transparent with people. And I've even taken AJ Hinch aside, Tigers manager, and JB Bickerstaff, coach of the Pistons. I've told both of them when the cameras weren't rolling, like, hey, I want to be the best reporter I can be for both of you guys and represent your organizations well. And there's some stuff I may not know. And if you ever think I ask a stupid question in a press conference, I want you to tell me, like, later on, or I want you to share with me, like, hey, you know, this is what we were trying to do during that play if you didn't understand, or this is what, you know, I try to be a sponge. I try to learn, and I try to be, again, keeping it real with people and telling them that I'm trying my best as a woman that may not have played your sports, but I'm really trying to understand you and what you guys are trying to do. So, well,
most of the spectators at home too, they didn't play or don't know everything also, so it's you doing your job just kind of helps people at home too.
Exactly, yeah. And so I try my best to be as well informed and tell stories in the best and easiest way for fans at home to understand what I'm saying. It's so hard sometimes to squeeze like a minute worth of information into like 20 seconds because a lot of times our hits on TV have to be squeezed into like 15 to 20 seconds. We'll come out of a commercial break or it'll be during a timeout, and it's like I have to get what I'm trying to say out as concisely and clearly as possible. And so that's something I always try and work on too, is helping the viewer understand what I'm saying and make it feel like I'm just having a conversation with them at home so they understand what I'm trying to say. So it's building a relationship with the fans at home too is a whole nother part of the process. And just, yeah, again, being a woman, going back to that, is just trying to buy the male viewership. I mean, I guess sports are mostly a male audience, but you're always trying to get them to not only like you, I guess, for, I mean, they automatically, I feel like you for what you look like, because being a female, that's just like how guys are. I get those tweets a lot too, but it's like I want people to tell me like, oh, she knows what she's talking about, not just, oh, that Natalie girl, she's pretty, that's why I watch. Right. I want it to be, hey, that Natalie girl, she's an all-around great girl, like she knows what she's doing, she knows what she's talking about. So that's what, as females, we're always trying to work towards, but it's hard.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have to, I know athletes come out all the time and they say, you know, I don't look at my DMs, or sometimes I have to step away from social media. Yeah. You know, you're almost like an athlete at that point. You know, I'm sure you guys have a lot of shared experiences there. You know, the DMs might say different things, but you know, how do you block it out? Do you look at it? Like, how do you manage all of that to make sure that you know, when you go on camera and the green light goes on, you do the best job that you can?
Yeah, well, it's hard not to look at your DMs. So I honestly have my notifications turned off for that, unless I choose to go click on, you know, the little DM button on both Twitter and Instagram and choose to look at them. Because it's hard. It's like I get DMs from my friends on just normal, regular things, but it's sometimes hard to block out the random fans that are sliding in there too. And it's like, okay, I didn't need to see that. People sending random pictures or just different things. I'm like, I have no interest in this. I don't want to see it. To your point, yeah, it is being like an athlete though too, because they're also getting messages and different just things that can easily get inside their own heads. I've talked with a lot of them about it. Like, if I remember last year walking around the Tigers clubhouse, there were a few guys that were they were on a hitless streak and they just weren't playing very well. And they're like, oh yeah, I got some death threats last night. Jeez. It's like, wow. For what reason? Like, for what? Why go out of your way to message a guy and tell them, oh, you suck, this and that, you should die, whatever the messages said. They didn't share them with me, but they're like, oh yeah, I don't even look on there anymore because it's just all ruthless stuff about just the way they're playing. If like a player does bad and someone's bet doesn't hit, that's another huge thing nowadays. Obviously, betting and gambling is the way of the world, especially in sports. Obviously, me working at FanDuel, getting renamed FanDuel is just the way that the direction this industry is going. But that's another big thing too. So it's hard not to look at it, but even if I do come across something mean or something that's like, dude, what? Why would you say that? I just have learned to grow thick skin and just wipe it off and just say, you know what? I don't care. I'm living my dream. I'm meant to be here for a reason. I live by that. I always say that everything happens for a reason, and I can't let whoever, Joe Schmo's opinion get in my head about the job that I'm doing. I want to say, I'd like to see you get up here on a microphone and try it. Because it's not easy.
No.
It's still not easy. Even though I've been in this now for 5 years, it's still really hard. I still have moments of self-doubt all the time, but I try not to let these randos get in my head at all. It's like, all right, they can all screw off. That's my attitude about it.
And the social media piece of it, I mean, would you say that's important in what you do?
Oh my gosh, it's everything. It's everything. Because most people don't read a newspaper nowadays to get their news. I go on Twitter every day, or I'll get my notifications, and that's what I check every morning when I wake up. That's how I find a lot of stats. That's how I find even players who have social media profiles. They're tweeting out photos and videos of things, and sometimes I use those for stories, and I'll screenshot those, and we'll put it in the broadcast and say, hey, this guy put on his Instagram last night that, whatever the story may be. And so it adds to my storytelling using social media. There's such a benefit to it. That's how I've connected with so many people. I've made friends on there. That's how I've gotten on some other podcasts. That's how I've, I guess even really to get my job, it's just being able to use social media and seeing the girl that left before me was leaving. I would have never known if I didn't see her post about it. So even just little things, now that I'm thinking back, there's so many benefits to using it, and anyone can create content nowadays and create their own sports media job if they want by posting just videos of them talking about sports, whatever it is. One video goes viral and you pop off. The next thing you know, this person's working for wherever, like an online betting company, or, there's so many different stories on how people make it into this industry, but some people simply just start posting on social media. One thing blows up and then they have a job. Yeah. So it's huge. I use it every day. I tweet stuff out during games. I tweet different preview videos I'll record on my phone of a matchup coming up, whatever it is, or if I'm at shoot around or batting practice, I'll take videos of whoever's up at the plate or whoever's shooting hoops. Hey, so-and-so's coming back from injury. And I'll be able to tweet that out for the fans, and they freak out because I'm the first one that was able to get access to that and tweet it out. So there are a lot of benefits, but as we've already hit on, there's negatives too with people. But
and part of
good.
the NIL world that's going on now in college sports and the stuff that we deal with a lot, the student athletes that we represent. Part of that now is, building your own brand on social media. Yep. And I know you have a pretty decent following on social media too. So what advice would you say you have for student athletes that are trying to use social media effectively to help build that brand and then hopefully land some NIL deals down the road? Yeah,
well, I think being who you are and being authentic is a huge part in building that brand, because that is who you are. That's what people come to know when they go to your page. They know what kind of content they're going to get. So I think posting consistently, and maybe it's different types of content too, whether it's, videos of just what you're doing in your everyday life, or of course in your sport too, giving your fans kind of an inside perspective of maybe a day in the life for a Michigan State football player of what they do, or how early they're getting up for those morning workouts, or just the excitement for the next season, whatever it is. And then also giving a little bit of personality along with that too. I brought up Malik Beasley earlier, who's on the Pistons. I think he does a really great job at building his brand when I think of just someone who has a really good social media presence. And I think it's because he interacts with his fans all the time. I think they buy into what he's doing because he's tweeting stuff about basketball, posting pictures, posting videos, but then he also gives a glimpse of just what his off days are like, or maybe he's cooking something, or maybe he just has, he'll post, I'm not saying the guys at Michigan State got to do this, but he'll post different giveaways on his page and be like, guys, I took a pair of my basketball shoes and I hid them around the city of Detroit. I have like 3 pairs that I hid this morning. Whoever finds them, I'll put you on my story and, tweet at me. I'll share your photo. And I think fans love that because that just makes you feel like you're closer with them. So maybe for these college athletes, it's just finding a way to, hey, maybe you go hide a pair of cleats downtown East Lansing. Maybe. I don't know, but it's finding a way to get the fans to just like who you are as a person. I think at the end of the day, you could be a heck of a player on the field, but I think if people like who you are, they're going to want to follow you and see what you're up to all the time. Yeah. And so I try to do that too. I give my fans, I guess, a perspective of, hey, this is what I'm doing for my day in the life at work. I love to make those kind of videos. I make TikToks. I try and be fun with that. But I also will, if I'm on vacation, I'll post stuff from there too. And then fans will comment, oh my gosh, I've been there before. And then I'm responding back. And then you just build more of a fan base or a clientele that just likes to see what you're posting. So maybe telling too the athletes that you represent, to respond back to maybe some of the nice comments that people are leaving on their pages and photos. And I think that just makes people more likable. And one other thing I'll add, because I brought up TikTok, I have seen some college football players make some funny dancing videos. Not saying that your guys have to go out and just do that, because I think it takes a special person to put yourself out there in that way. Yeah. But I'm telling you, some of these guys from even smaller programs, I can't even think of specific players right now, but they'll just come up on like my For You page, and I'll scroll through and I'm like, dang, that big lineman's got some moves. He can bust it down. But you go to their page and they have like 70,000 followers, and it's like, my goodness. And now they're getting deals with the local burger spot in that college town down the street, and it's like, then they get their own burger named after them, and then just different things are coming to mind right now. But it's just, if you can find ways to make yourself likable, I think is the biggest thing. So maybe go dance. Yeah. Make those TikToks.
You should start on that, Charlie.
Yeah, I think so, Charlie.
I think am I sparking some ideas around the table?
We're going to go out and do a dance after this. I don't have a TikTok, but
we're going to set up the phone right out there.
Oh, yeah.
Do it. We'll all get in one.
Yeah, there you go.
Now, you brought up Beasley.
Yep.
I have to ask, I'm definitely the biggest Pistons fan here. Well, besides you, but amongst the 3 of us.
Sure.
I have to ask, are the Pistons legit going forward? Because obviously we had the huge jump from 14 to, I think it was 44 wins.
Yep.
I lived and died in that Knicks series. Like, I thought we should have beat them so many times. I was at Game 3. The 21-0 run in Game 1 killed me. So, going forward, how are you feeling about them?
God, you do know your stuff. You're spitting on stats left and right. I'm like, you're right. It was 21. Dude, the Pistons are legit. I'm not just saying that. I truly, and now I've only been here for 3 years, and I've, at least on TV, have lived through the bad years. But let me tell you, the moment that JB Bickerstaff and Trajan Langdon came in this year to take over this organization, it's hard right at first to know whether they're going to be the right puzzle pieces that fit into what we have here in Detroit, right? Like you had Monty Williams last year, and that obviously it didn't work out, and I hope he's doing well, but it just wasn't the right fit for Detroit. And 14 wins will tell you all you need to know with that. And a 28-game losing streak to go along with it. Yep. It just setting records not in a good way. Yep. So when they both came in, it was hard to know if, at their intro press conferences with them telling you what you want to hear of, we're going to get back to that old Detroit gritty, defensive-minded style of basketball that we used to have back in the Bad Boys days and the going-to-work era and all of that. And it's like, I'm buying into it, but is it going to work? Well, then summer camp started to go along, and we saw Summer League and the way the team drafted, and it was like, okay, maybe they're starting to get some good pieces in there. And then when the season started, I remember we had a really tough start to the schedule. I want to say the first 5 or 6 opponents were teams that made it to the playoffs this year. It was like Celtics, Pacers, Cavs, can't remember the rest, but I just remember we lost like 5 straight games or something like that, and everyone's like, all right,
here we go again.
Here we go again.
Right.
Like we already have felt what it feels like to be on rock bottom. Like we know what it's like to feel pain. I don't feel pain anymore. I'm numb at this point. But then we started to stack on some wins. It was like, okay, then 2 wins, then maybe 2 losses, and maybe a win and a loss, and it was just. But we started to see some marks in the W column.
I feel like I saw a bunch of Pistons are at 7 wins. Last year, they were at 7 wins in like April or something.
They started to compare. Like on this date last year, we still had none.
Yeah, right.
And it's like we're already at 10. Let's go.
Yep.
So I just felt like we started to see guys build some confidence, and the veterans that they brought in too. So Malik Beasley, Tim Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, bringing him back. Yep, Schroeder when we got him at the trade deadline, which was like the best thing the Pistons could have done when Jaden Ivey went down right on New Year's Day. So bringing in those pieces was something that this team lacked last year, because we did have, I guess, what you'd consider veterans, but they weren't like Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks. I'm trying to think of some of the other guys. We had so many different players that came in and out of the organization, but I just felt like we didn't have guys that were vocal leaders, and I guess that could do it on the court too. Like just having that good, well-balanced mix of a guy that could just put the team on his back and wipe last year's season just away.
Beasley was like the NBA 3-point leader for most of the year. So.
Exactly.
Sorry, guys. It's turning into a basketball podcast.
I don't know. But just to get to the point here of just, is this team legit? I just feel like they did everything the right way last year by bringing in the right people that all bought into just this same mentality of what they were trying to do. And so the veterans brought a good mentality of mentoring the young guys. You started to see them improve throughout the year. Jaden Ivey goes down, Schroeder comes in, but more guys started getting time off the bench. When Jaden went down too, they got to grow. And so you just saw this confidence build throughout the year. And it's like, you don't have a ton of superstars. You have Cade Cunningham, right, who is a whole nother topic to dive into, but he came into his own. And the veterans doing their thing, and I think it's like it was a well-oiled machine. They never let a loss get them down. It was like, no, we're going to win the next one, though. It's all good. And so they had a way of just wiping the previous year out of their minds. JB Bickerstaff did a great job at reminding them of, hey, we're not talking about that. We can acknowledge it, but we're not bringing it up. And so that led them to their first playoffs in however many, since 2019. First playoff win since 2008.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, you're the stats guy. Come
on.
No.
I'm looking to you.
I know. I'm like, this already feels like it was, even though it was only like a month ago at this point. But anyways, yes, I think the Pistons are legit.
All right.
Curious what they're going to do this summer in free agency.
I know. We got a couple guys. I think we got to bring Beasley back. I don't know.
At least him.
Yeah.
I think Schroeder too.
Oh, he was so good in the playoffs.
So
series.
he was. I know. So anyways, this has turned into a Pistons
I know.
podcast.
Sorry, guys.
No, you're good. You're good.
But yeah, no, it's just it's fun. Detroit sports as a whole, guys, I think are just on the
Tigers are number
Tigers.
one.
Tigers are
That's
hot.
exciting.
Best team in baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. And talk about another unexpected story last year. I was just telling this to someone the other day. August of 2024, they had a 0.2% chance to make the postseason.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right after the All-Star break. I mean, it just was like, all right, this team, like, let's wash this season away. Like, let's look at next year, whatever. And then they just started to win. And it was just like, oh my God, they just won that series. And then they just won that series. And it was like, they just kept rolling. So covering that was unbelievable. And so that team's obviously legit, as we're seeing this year. The Lions, they were the first ones to start it a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. Now they just need to make it over the hump of the NFC Championship. But that's a whole nother story. And then the Wings, they hopefully bring in some pieces too to get them back on track. But yeah, Detroit, it's like I don't know, it's a new wave. It's a new era of sports. And I love
A lot of exciting things
place to
going on
be.
for sure.
Yeah.
So what's the future hold?
What's the future hold? I mean, I absolutely love where I'm at right now. It's seriously such a dream. I don't know what else I'd be doing. I truly love what I do. It doesn't feel like work. And I hope to continue covering these teams for however long they want me here in Detroit. I'm not even a full-time reporter with either team, actually. I'm more of a fill-in, I guess is what you call it. I rotate with another guy, Johnny Kane, who's incredible too, and a mentor to me that I absolutely love. But he gets most of the shifts, but it's okay because I'm lower on the totem pole, so I'm working my way up. But fighting for those spots too. And so I hope to be, full-time Pistons or Tigers at some point. And even if that doesn't happen, whatever my next step is, my dream, my goal, I want to make it to the national level. This is considered the regional level. So there's 3 levels to sports broadcasting. There's your local news, then there's your regional news network, which is where I'm at now, and then national, which is CBS, ESPN, Fox, all of that. And that's where I hope to be in whatever capacity, my life and God's plan has for me. I would love to cover football or basketball. That would be my dream. Those are the 2 sports that I've just always loved since I was little. So that's where my passion's at. But if they need a heck of a good hockey reporter, I'm going to learn everything I can and I'm going to do it. Whatever that means, always willing to just learn whatever you can and do what you can to make it to the top. And so that's where my head's at right now. I mean, that's what I think is next. But right now, just living in the moment. Loving Tigers season right now and really excited for Pistons this fall. And there could be, as I've been told, nothing's official yet, but there could be way more games and opportunities for me there this coming season. So fingers crossed for that. And that's what's fun about life is just letting it unfold the way it's supposed to. I've always lived by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're rooting for you.
Yeah. We're excited to keep watching you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I could just sit here and talk all day.
Yeah. Studio would probably kick us out.
They probably would. Probably would. He's smirking back there. He's loving it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun, and we do wish you the best, and we'll obviously be following you, and hopefully we can have you on again in the future.
Absolutely. Seriously, I'll drive up here anytime.
Amazing.
I loved it. It's fun to talk about what you do, and I think, as you guys can hear, the passion just comes through. I love it. I'm sure my Uncle Larry has shared that with you guys. It's always been a part of me. Sports are it's so much fun. There's so much emotion and passion that comes through, and I love it. So I'm always willing to talk about it, and being in Michigan State land is an added bonus. So
Nice.
this is awesome.
Great.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, thanks,
Natalie.
Natalie.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate you coming.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.